Survivor 50 is finally here. The first episode just came out, and so I'm here to do what I do every season of Survivor, to analyze the edit of just the first episode of the season in order to figure out what I think the story is going to be for every single player on this season based on how they were edited in the first episode. And then I'm going to create a contender ranking from least to most likely to win the season based just on what I found in the first episode alone. Let's see how I do. I also just want to give a quick disclaimer. I am not spoiled on anything about this season. I promise you, I have avoided spoilers like the plague. Please don't even mention spoilers in the comments. Don't even say anything like, oh, it looks like he saw the spoilers. I didn't, and it's really detrimental to me. I just don't want to even hear about the spoilers at all. So please, 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 please do not mention the spoilers in the comments at all. If there are spoilers out there, I barely know anything about them. So please just avoid the topic altogether. I really appreciate it. So here we are, season 50. We finally made it. I'm super excited. We got all the players ranked up in our Edgic chart. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. I know I've been looking forward to this a long time. I've been making content for season 50 for the past 10 months being prepared for this season, so I'm super excited to finally jump into it. I will start off with just my general thoughts on the episode, my personal feelings, get a couple of those thoughts and feelings out, and then we will jump into giving Edgic ratings for every single player, and then we will do our contender rankings for this season. But before we get into that, I will give a brief rundown of how Edgic works if you are unfamiliar. Edgic basically stands for Edit Logic, where you analyze the edit of an episode of Survivor or any sort of reality show and give each person on there a very specific rating based on what it seemed like they were edited in that episode. There are 3 different parts to an Edgic rating. The first part is the type of edit the person got. There are 4 different types of edits. It can either be UTR, which stands for under the radar, which means you didn't see very much of them in the episode. It can be MOR, which stands for middle of the road, which means you saw a little bit of them, but they weren't super fleshed out as a character. It can be CP, which stands for complex personality, which means you saw a good amount of them and they were pretty fleshed out as a character. Or it can be OTT, which stands for over the top, which means you saw way too much of them, almost to an overly characterized point. The second part of an Edgic rating is the tone of the edit. It can either be a P for a positive leaning tone, an N for a negative leaning tone, an M for a mixed tone, which means you got a little bit of both, or it can be just no letter at all, which is just a neutral, no tone, nothing leaning one way or the other. That is the extra letter that is tagged on to the 2 or 3 letters that we get from the type of edit. And then, finally, at the end of the rating, we get the number, which is basically a visibility rating from 1 to 5 on how much screen time they got in the episode. 1 meaning you barely saw them at all, 5 for you saw them pretty much way too much. And so, let's jump in to talking about the season. Super excited. I really liked the premiere. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. I do think, obviously we end a little bit on a sour note. I think after Tribal, it gets a little bit bad. Spoiler alert for the premiere if you haven't seen it, obviously. I do think that there are some stuff at the end that was kind of a bit of a bummer. I don't like where we left off the Vatu tribe with all the losing the votes, and then obviously Kyle getting that back. That was very sad to see. But in terms of the flow of things, the way things went, I was really excited. It was super awesome to get to see a lot of these players interact. I've been looking forward to this a lot, and just some of these interactions were just so exciting for me. Even people from like the recent seasons, like when Joe and Savannah sat down to talk shop about who they wanted to vote out. I don't know why, but that just really got me. I mean, those were like pretty much my 2 favorite people on their respective seasons of 48 and 49. I obviously paid a lot of attention to those 2 seasons, covering them on this channel. And so that alone was just really cool to me, get to see those 2 interact and strategize out there on the island. And I mean, not even that's not even including all of these legends going back to the very beginning of the show, getting to see them out there. There was just so much going on. It was explosive. It was electric. I really enjoyed it. I think they honored the history of the show in a really nice way. And I have a lot of complimentary things to say about this premiere. The negative things I would say before I talk about a couple more positive things. I do think some of the twists, some of the votes, the in the hands of the fans votes. What are you doing, guys? Who is voting for this? You're voting not to give them rice? Come on, we've seen. Why would you vote for the thing we see every single season? They never give them rice anymore. That's not different. That's not unique. Why did we even need to vote for that? I just think that's so stupid. Why would people vote for that? And then some of these other things like the twist and whatnot, I actually really liked a couple of the advantages. I thought the boomerang idol was actually a pretty interesting concept. I really did not mind that. And also the sell your vote for tribe supplies. I kind of thought that was all right. I kind of didn't mind it, even though I don't love the idea of losing a vote. But I do think that the journey that Colby and Savannah went on was really bad. I did not like that journey. I thought it was really stupid, especially that screwing over another person that's supposed to be in the majority alliance on that tribe that already lost. Q already lost his vote, and now Colby has as well. I just think that's some serious bull honky, okay? In my opinion, I did not like that. And then, obviously there's some stuff that outside the control of the medevac and whatnot that was sad. But in terms of the people that we lose here, looking at Jenna and Kyle, are two boots of the first episode of Survivor 50. Personally, I'm pretty okay with this. I think this is pretty good first two boots. No offense to them at all. I just think that, in terms of Kyle, right, he just got his win, right? Super impressive. He's got his $1 million. He was, pretty revered as a winner. I think he went out in 50. He proved himself. He was in a great spot. He was playing really well, especially as a winner that they just saw. Better than anyone thought that he'd be able to play on this season in a very short amount of time. He was doing great. He gets taken out in a sad way, but also in a way that's only benefits his reputation in a way that he proved how good of a player he is and what he was able to do out there in just those first couple of days. I think it's good. I don't think I needed more of Kyle. I think when Kyle was announced on the cast, I know myself and a lot of people kind of like, really? We don't need that many people from season 48 out here. And, Kyle just got his check. He's a great player, but do we need him on 50? Maybe you could save that for another time if you really want to bring him back. And I think that this is a fine spot for him to go out. I enjoyed him in the episode we got. He proved himself, but I think that's kind of all that was needed. And in the case of Jenna, all love to Jenna. This is going to sound like shade. I'm not trying to throw shade. Maybe a little bit. I think that Jenna, well, in the grand scheme of if I were ranking how excited I was for everyone in the season, she would probably have been pretty low. But part of that is that her shtick on All Stars and on this season is she comes in and she wants to immediately target all of the most popular players that everyone likes, which is kind of baller. Okay, I respect it, but it's not super fun for me. It just makes me stressed out. She's just like a player that stresses me out to watch on these returning player seasons, I guess. So I think that her going up first, having this big episode, I think she summed up great. First in, first out. I think that is a compelling narrative. We got the Borneo rep and it was wrapped up right away. I know that we're not necessarily looking for old schoolers to go, what happened on Winners at War. I'll be honest, this collection of old schoolers, I don't really mind a lot of them going. Personally, I wouldn't have minded that much if they vote out Cirie or Ozzy. I've seen plenty of them. Not that I don't like them. It's just I've seen them a lot, right? I kind of think all those options were good. I would have been more sad if someone that I really liked that was a recent person, like an Emily or a Christian, if they could vote out first, that's more devastating to me because this was like their big second chance, right? But a winner, people that have played multiple times, these old school people, I don't know, that kind of didn't upset me as much. There are some old schoolers I would be upset to see go, which we will maybe get to in this. But for Jenna, I think it was a good story. It was a good narrative. It ended in a climactic way. I can't complain too much. I think that this was a pretty good set of the first two boots for the first week. Like, I don't mind not being able to talk about them for the rest of the season. And it sounds mean. I'm not trying to be mean. As people, they're great. But in terms of a narrative, I think this turns out pretty well. So, all that being said, let's just get into the ratings, get into the Edgic of the season, and then the contenders. We got a lot to get through. We got 24/22 people to get through, so a lot to talk about here. So I'll try to give thoughts on each person as we go along. We'll start off with Jenna Lewis Darty, who goes out first here. I think I want to give her a complex personality -3, maybe. I feel like she was in there. I didn't feel too over the top. We got her strategy. I mean, you could argue it's a mixed tone because she did get a lot of reverence. I think, like, in terms of the opening and all that, she did get, it was a big impact. There was a big impact of her being there. There definitely was positivity there. But to me, it kind of felt like the positivity came from, like, just the fact that this is season 50 and less so what she was, like, doing on the season, if that makes sense. What she actually, like, once we hit the beach, it felt very negative. Like, this felt like a kind of villain edit for one episode, right, of Jenna. So I think I gotta give her the negative. If we take a look at the confessional charts here provided by Just Strategic on Twitter, thank you very much. 4 confessionals, not bad, but not crazy. I think a complex personality negative is pretty appropriate there for Jenna. And for Kyle, I probably would give Kyle a complex personality positive. He had a pretty positive edit. A lot of people talk about how they want to work with him. A lot of showing him being in a really good position, him doing things well. It was a big sad send-off when he gets taken out. I might even give him a 4, honestly. I felt like Kyle got a pretty good episode, all things considered. I mean, he also gets 4 confessionals, but I felt like there was more showcasing his good position, his relationships, and whatnot. So I'll give him the complex personality positive 4 for Kyle, but pretty good edits for both of them. I was not super surprised to see either of them go. I think it was a tolerable send-off, I guess, for 2 legends of the game. It's all legends here for the most part. So we're going to be losing people you don't want to lose every week. It's how it is. As far as this goes, not too bad. All right. We're going to hop up and go down. Normally I say in alphabetical order. This time it's not in alphabetical order because I actually have them ordered by their original season. Just because that's how I made the chart and I didn't want to change it. So we're going through by their original season, starting off with Colby. Colby had a pretty good episode. I mean, there was a lot of Colby here, a lot of good stuff, a lot of really showcasing. I felt like the edit was kind of showing Colby as the center of the tribe in a lot of ways. We saw him with Stephenie, we saw him with Kyle, we saw him with Genevieve, we saw him with Rizo. It really felt like Colby was kind of running things, and I kind of had the thought that it kind of felt to me like Colby from season 2, the second oldest person here in terms of their season, was succeeding where Jenna was failing, right? Colby also came in hot, also came in really excited to play and being this old school player that's like maybe a little bit unsure of what's going on and really trying to like get in there and tackle things. But Colby felt much more focused on building the relationships, getting people to like him and being a part of the tribe, and built an alliance based on that. And we saw much more of him connecting with the people on his tribe that put himself in a pretty dominant position as of right now on the tribe. Whereas Jenna came in really hot and kind of just really wanted to throw out names and didn't work on building those bonds or building those alliances before already trying to create plans and whatnot. I'm not saying that's how it was in real life. That's just how it was painted on the show. I kind of think Colby was like the successful iteration of that and a really unique reflection of what Jenna was doing here. I actually think I might give Colby the exact same rating I gave Kyle. I think a complex personality +4. I feel like we got a lot of Colby in the episode. I believe he gets 5 confessionals based on this, which is pretty dang good. And yeah, really good episode for Colby. A lot of people talking about how much they like him, how charming he is. There was that great scene of him like giving a wink to Angelina and a smirk, and she like fainted. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, very positive stuff here overall for Colby. Stephenie, I would say, now, it does tell me that she gets 6 confessionals, which is quite a bit. I mean, she did get quite a bit, but it didn't feel like as long. It didn't feel like her scenes were as substantial. She did get confessionals, but she got the first confessional of the episode, but it didn't feel quite as, like, fleshed out of what she was doing and whatnot. I maybe would go complex personality. I don't think I would give it a rating. I think it's probably a toneless. And I would give it a 3, I think. I know that she gets more confessionals than Colby and Kyle, but it didn't. I think the actual length of the confessionals were probably less, and I think a lot of her screen time outside of confessionals was less than Colby and Kyle got. So I think a straight complex personality 3 here for Stephenie feels appropriate to me. Cirie. Weird episode for Cirie. Shockingly low-key episode for Cirie. I feel like we did not really get that much of her, especially of all the old school players. I felt like she got the least play of the old schoolers here. Pretty negative episode for Cirie. A lot of she failed. She, stepped up to the plate and whiffed it. And not really a lot of like bounce back positivity. Like there were a little bit of like, she's got talents. We should keep her. But like it really just came from Ozzy. We didn't really hear the other people be like, we want Cirie around. It was more just we kind of want Jenna and Ozzy out more than her, right? So I think that I think I'm going to give it a middle of the road for Cirie. You could argue it was an over the top, like a low over the top, but I don't think it was that much. It might be crazy. I kind of want to give Cirie a middle of the road negative. And part of the reason I think that is because I don't know if she's ever gotten that rating before, and I don't know if she's ever going to get it again. I have to see what I gave on Australia versus the World. Maybe I gave her a negative rating there. I just feel like it's so rare for Cirie to get a negative rating. I felt like this was kind of as negative as it could possibly get for Cirie. For Cirie, of all people, I don't know how you get a more negative episode than this. You could argue it was mixed. I think mixed would be a valid rating here as well. I kind of would just want to stand my guns and go with a negative rating here, though. She does get 3 confessionals. It's on the lesser side here. I probably would give it a 3 just because she did get a decent amount of screen time because her tribe goes to tribal and there's a lot of stuff going on there. But it was on the lesser side for sure. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's pretty much all I got for Cirie. We'll talk more about her in the contenders, I think. Ozzy, massive episode for Ozzy. Man, there is so much to say about Ozzy. I'll say a lot of my thoughts about Ozzy now. I feel like Ozzy got a big out of this episode. If we take a look at the confessionals, Ozzy gets 19 confessionals in this episode, which is a ton. Absolutely massive edit here. But I'm it felt very negative for me. I think I would go between like a negative and a mixed maybe. But I want to put out some of the stuff that was going on with Ozzy here. Well, you know what? I'll save it for the contenders. Stick around for the contender rankings. I'll go into more specifics. But there was a lot of undercutting what Ozzy was up to. A lot of him talking about stuff that made it feel like he was kind of cocky, and then someone else would come in and say basically the opposite of what was going on. Felt like he was very kind of on his own. He almost got voted out despite being such a challenge asset because he was kind of playing too hard, I guess, and people were off put by it. It seemed like people didn't really want to play with him based on what he was doing in this episode. So I think overall this rating feels weird to give him, but on an individual aspect basis, I kind of want to give Ozzy an over the top negative. I think an over the top -5 because he got a lot of talk. The 5 I think is undeniable. I think you could say it was a complex personality. Maybe complex personality negative is a better aspect, or a mixed tone, over the top mixed, anything between there. There's a lot of possibilities. I just feel like, to me, this episode for Ozzy reminded me a bit, and this is going to be a strange comparison, to Say in Survivor 48. That it felt like so much content in the first episode, way more confessionals than everyone else. Really out there, really kind of playing hard, foot on the gas, but kind of like this villain-like edit. It's very negative tone. You kind of think that they might be doing too much and they might get voted out first, but they don't. They slide by. But it feels like that bubble's gonna pop eventually, right? Like, this can't stick around forever. Maybe a long time, maybe longer than you expect, right? Maybe it'll be as long as Say. Maybe it'll be longer. Maybe it won't be as long. But I feel like it feels like that Say type edit. Well, it's still like kind of rootable, right? And I love Say, and I think there are people that probably were really rooting for Ozzy in this episode and enjoying what he was bringing. I did enjoy what he was bringing to the episode, to many extents, but it still felt like there was something off there, right? Not total villainous, but like there's something that you're like, this is going to catch up to them eventually, and that's what it felt like with Ozzy for me in this episode. Let's move on to Coach, Ozzy's big rival. Strange episode for Coach. He goes on the journey. He does this whole thing where he's like, I'm not going to talk about making these deals. I'm going to steal the key because I'm here to play new. But then also is kind of like, don't question my honor. And then there's like, everyone like loves him when he comes back to camp. Everyone's like jumping around him and hugging him, and it's very positive. I was really feeling the positivity for Coach for a little bit there. And then like we get the scene later in the episode where Mike White comes back with the info from Colby, and then it was like, oh, this is kind of negative on Coach. Feels like people are a little bit off put by him right now. He's like acting strange, but then they kind of defended him and they're like, we got your back, Coach. And then he does this whole thing where he's like, this is going to fuel me to be stronger. And he like does this big pose on the beach. So weird episode for Coach. I don't know where it's going. I'm probably going to give an over the top mixed to Coach here. I think a 4 rating. Let's take a look. 8 confessionals. That's quite a bit. I mean, that is 3rd most of the episode, I think. So, or 4th. So, I mean, it's quite a bit. Moving on to Aubry. Not a ton of Aubry in this episode. Quite very little. She gets the scene with Genevieve where the kind of like sussing each other out. And she's like, I kind of got to take out Genevieve before she cuts me. And then she got a little bit talk about how she was sad that Kyle was getting medevaced. And that was pretty much it. Otherwise, we didn't really establish any relationships. We don't really know anything of what she's got going on, why she's here, what she's doing. She gets, apparently it says she got 3 confessionals. I don't know how she got 3. I only remember 2. But it felt very under the radar to me. I think just a neutral under the radar, honestly, for Aubry. I'll give it a 2 just because it tells me that she got 3 confessionals, which is surprising to me. Um, but yeah, I don't really remember much else going on with her. I don't think that there was really tone. I don't know for sure how to read that tone that was going on between her and Genevieve. Um, so yeah, under the radar, 2 for Aubry. Chrissy. Uh, Chrissy also had a strange episode. I mean, her big scene was that scene with Coach where she was out in the water and she was talking to Coach and how she wants to take out D. And I might be the only one here. I'm curious to hear what people have to say. I got real bad vibes off of that scene. Like, I was just like, something is off here. I was like, it did not seem like Coach was buying what she was selling. Like, it really felt to me like Chrissy was pulling a Jenna Lewis here. She was coming in really hot, assuming that she had alliances that maybe she didn't have, and throwing out the name of the biggest threat and the most like beloved person on the tribe right away before they've even gone to tribal, and decent chance that it might bounce back on them if they were to go to tribal. That's what it really felt like to me with Chrissy. There was something weird going on there. I don't know if I would go as far to say it was a negative rating, because I do think that might have just been like the vibe that I was picking up, but that might not be how it was painted. We didn't really see anyone say anything negative about Chrissy. We just saw later in the episode of the 3 new era girls, particularly Tiffany, talking about how they haven't really talked to Chrissy and how they might be the person they would want out if they had to take someone out. But it wasn't like super negative. It was just saying that she's who they would want to vote out, right? So I'm really curious to hear what people say in the comments if I'm the only one here. I think I'm going to give her a neutral rating, probably a middle of the road neutral. I think I'm going to give it a middle of the road 2 here for Chrissy, but I'm really curious if people agree with me that it felt really negative and weird. I don't know what to make of this with Chrissy. I kind of think Chrissy might be going out very soon, or might be like the first boot of that tribe based on the edit of this episode. And I don't know. So if other people tell me in the comments that they also thought it was a negative episode for Chrissy, then maybe I'll change it to a negative. I just don't want to. I don't want to read into something that might not be there, in my opinion. But if people defend my decision of neutral, then great. This is one I'm really curious to hear what people have to say. So I'm thinking middle of the road 2 neutral here for Chrissy. She gets 2 confessionals, not a ton. But it did feel like that scene was fairly substantial. We heard a little bit about her gameplay and being excited to be there and whatnot. So it was something, but not a lot of content. Christian Hubicki. For some reason, we all call him by his full name nowadays. Christian gets a ton here on this episode. Really, really enjoyed what he brought. I think that he was introduced a little bit late in the episode, but once he was there, he was really there. He got multiple very positive scenes of Rick talking good about him, Emily talking good about him, Cirie talks good about him. I think Joe even talks good. Everyone was feeling good about Christian. Glad that he was there. Even Jenna, like everyone was like trying to have him in an alliance. We also saw the scene of him making the fire, and it was told from his perspective. He got that great part of him talking about his kid. There was a lot of Christian in this episode. I definitely think I'm going to go with a complex, personality positive 4, I think, for Christian. Let's take a look at the confessional count. 7 confessionals. Yeah, that's pretty much what I expected here on Christian. I don't think it's enough for a 5. I think Ozzy's probably the only 5 I would give in the episode, because I do think overall it was, everyone was shown, right? Ozzy was a lot, but I don't think anyone else was so much that they need a 5 compared to other people. But very solid episode from Christian. A lot of content here. A lot of established relationships. I'm feeling good about Christian's edit in this episode. Angelina. I don't know if other people feel this way. I feel like Angelina was like the most purpled person here, right? I feel like I did not really get anything from Angelina in this episode. I don't know if I saw her talk to a single person. other than the very end when the whole group is sitting around and her and Q are talking about blackjack or whatever. I don't remember her talking to anyone. I remember her walking up and hugging people, and that's pretty much it. I know she had a couple confessionals. I think she got 2. Or it says 3 again, apparently, this chart, which shocks me. But not a lot. I felt like we barely got anything. I would give Angelina also an under the radar. I guess I got to give it a 2 because it's telling me she had 3 confessionals. So I think I won't give anyone a 1 maybe in the premiere because I don't know who would be the 1 at this point. But I felt like Angelina was pretty insignificant in this episode. Mike White, also another 2-name person. Big episode for Mike White. I mean, take a look at the confessionals. Mike gets 7 confessionals, quite a bit. I felt like we got a lot from him. A lot of good stuff. He really felt like the narrator of his tribe, like the main person there telling us what's going on Kahlo. He got some great stuff of people being excited about his abs and how excited he was to show him off. That was a really funny scene. I really enjoyed that. He talks about how he's so appreciative to be there and how he works so hard and has a hard time making the show, making the White Lotus, and how he knows that he can do hard things because of Survivor. That was a great scene. I'm trying to think if it's enough for me to give a positive. It felt pretty positive. I mean, I might give him the same rating I gave Christian. I kind of want to give him a straightforward complex personality. I think I will just to mix it up because I got too many positives here, okay? I'm going to give him complex personality 4. Because there was positive stuff. It was funny, it was light, it was fun. But it also felt very narrative, It's borderline positive. I mean, I guess similar to Chrissy. Let me know. Do you think that this was a positive episode rather than a neutral for Mike White? I'm not sure. I'm torn on it. Yeah, let me know. I'm going to give it a complex personality 4. Rick Devens. Very similar episode to Christian. This is part of why I was not want to give too many complex personality positive 4s because I feel like I'm giving out a lot. Because I think I have to give him the same thing. A lot of positive talk about Rick here. A lot of people kind of liking him. He's painted as a bit of a goofball. That the goofballiness of Rick in this episode didn't get as much negativity as I would have thought. It seemed like people were just kind of vibing with it. Other people were talking positive about it and liking it. Christian gives like a whole like soliloquy about how great Rick Devens is. He's like the best person ever, apparently, according to Christian, which I thought was very funny. Clearly the producer asking Christian, hey, tell us some more nice things about Rick Devens, and then he goes on his speech. But yeah, really positive episode, I felt like, for Rick Devens here. Shown to be really kind of a core aspect of his tribe. Yeah, good stuff here. Jonathan Young. I think I have to give Jonathan Young also a complex personality positive. I felt like there was a lot of talk about people being so grateful that he was on the tribe and how useful he was. We also saw him talk about how he's coming in with a new strategy. He's going to play harder than before. It felt like there was definitely upswing of positivity with Jonathan, surprisingly enough. Definitely less than the other people. Well, let's take a look. I forgot to look at Rick's confessionals. Rick gets 5 confessionals, which is not as much as I would have thought, but I still feel like the 4 is warranted. Jonathan gets 3. Only 3. That's not a ton. But I think it's enough to give him a complex personality positive 3, I think. You can maybe bump it down to a 2. I don't think it needs to be a 2. I felt like he was in the episode quite a bit, even if he didn't have as much confessionals. So, complex personality positive 3, I feel like is appropriate for Jonathan. Emily. Also good stuff here for Emily. Maybe kind of a similar edit to Mike White, a little bit less so, where it was a little bit positive, but I don't know if it was so... I feel like I have so many positive ratings. I don't want to go too strong in the positives. And I feel like she's kind of similar to Mike White here, where it's like it was positive, but not like so positive that I think I want to give it a neutral rating just to keep it calm. But yeah, I mean, pretty good stuff here from Emily. She gets only 2 confessionals, which isn't a ton, but they felt pretty weighted confessionals. Her talking about how happy she was to be valued on the tribe and how she was feared she'd be on the bottom. And also she talked about wanting to kind of take out Ozzy and how that might put her in a better position, which they didn't take out Ozzy, which isn't great for Emily in terms of being the spokesperson to take out Ozzy. But it doesn't bother me too much. You could argue it's middle of the road, but I think I want to give her a complex personality here. Complex personality, either 2 or 3. I feel like going to tribal, I think it's enough to give her a 3. I do feel like we got more of her than definitely some of these other people that are lower on the list yet to come. So, yeah. Complex personality, 3 for Emily. Man, I'm so curious to hear what people have to say because I have no idea what other people's opinions on these ratings. It's so tough rating this season of all these legends of people that I love. It's hard. It's hard to figure out who what I think these ratings are. It's not easy. D. Not a great episode for D. We don't get a ton from her. She gets the first confessional when we go to her beach, which was good. I'm definitely not looking at a complex personality. It is borderline under the radar here for D, but we do get at least her being in the scene of like the 3 girls coming together to make an alliance, which although it didn't get a ton of play, it was like something, like it was included, which bumps up a little bit. People were talking about how she's so good, but they want to get rid of her. I kind of think I might go like a middle of the road mixed 2 for D here. Because there was a lot of talk about like, D's so good, so we got to get rid of her. She's got to go, But we also got Tiffany being super excited to get to play with D. Yeah, I think middle of the road mixed 2 feels appropriate for D here. Tiffany. Not a lot from Tiffany. If we take a look at confessional charts, D gets 1 confessional. So, I mean, borderline lower rating they gave her, but I didn't want to go any lower. Tiffany gets 1. I think Tiffany is borderline under the radar as well. I think I have to go under the radar. I think I do. I think a neutral under the radar. I'll give it a 2 because she did have a scene, but I do think compared to D at least had a lot of people talking about D. I didn't really hear anyone talk about Tiffany. She only had the one little scene where she was really involved at all. Not a lot here from Tiffany. Not a lot. So, I mean, I feel like she was basically, her one scene was basically on par with Aubry's one scene, So, I think the under the radar 2 is probably where I gotta go. Q. Q gets 9 confessionals. A lot of it being kind of circumstantial because he does go on the journey and is on Exile Island and then loses his vote. So, I mean, all that's important. I feel like Q, honestly, although having a lot of confessionals, didn't really get as much play as I would have expected him to. I feel like it was kind of a soft launch into Q for the season. Q was there, but he kind of felt like he was just there. He gets a lot of confessionals, but I don't really want to give him a huge rating. I definitely think it was toneless. I don't really think there was really any tone for Q in this episode, surprisingly enough. Even though he's very funny. I love Q. He's like one of my favorite all-time Survivor players. But I'm thinking I gotta go middle of the road for Q here. I mean, you could even go middle of the road 4 just because he got so much screen time. Maybe I will, Maybe we'll go middle of the road 4 just for fun. middle road, toneless 4. I think that's fair. I don't think it felt complex. Anytime he spoke, it was just talking about what was happening in the challenge. Wow, Ozzy, he's so impressive in the challenge. Wow, I can't believe I got my, got the pots and the pans. Wow, Kyle, I'm so grateful that you brought me in the alliance. It never really felt like we got a lot from Q about like what he was doing or what he wanted to do. It was just kind of observing what was going on around him, you know? He did get the last confessional of the episode, which I thought was pretty good, which was the confessional where he was like, one of us has got to win for Kyle. I don't know if it's great for him or just the tribe as a whole, but it was a good confessional. It was like the best confessional I think he got all episode. But I don't think it was a ton. I think a middle of the road 4 is probably appropriate for Q. Charlie, I think, is another one of these kind of under the radar zones. We really did not get a lot of the Survivor 46ers in this episode. Charlie only gets 2 confessionals. I felt like it was pretty low here for Charlie. I want to give Charlie an under the radar as well. I also don't think there was enough tone. I think if any of these under the radars had tone, I guess it'd be Aubry, which would be negative. I don't think there was a lot. I mean, Charlie maybe kind of has a positive tone with like him vibing with Coach, but it wasn't much. We got 2 confessionals from Charlie. One was him talking about how strong Jonathan Young is, and the second was how cool Coach is and how they might be blood brothers because he's wearing his toe ring. That was it. That was all we got from Charlie. We didn't see any other really relationships of what he was doing. Not a lot of other narration here. I'll give him a 2, just because I do remember what he did, but it was not a lot, I don't think, in this premiere. Genevieve definitely got more play in this episode. I definitely think that she had quite a bit of content, and I probably would give Genevieve, I mean, we see her talking to a lot of people on the tribe. Kyle, Colby, Stephenie, forming relationships. We hear her perspective talking about how she wants to play more with like an open heart this time. I can't think of the word. I'm trying to think. Form is the word I was trying to say. I couldn't say it. Form better relationships than she had last time. And we saw her doing that. We saw people talking about how they were scared of her. She's a scary player, but also they respected her. They liked her. They want to work with her anyways, despite that. So I think I'm going to give a complex personality mixed here to Genevieve. First one of the episode, maybe the only one. Well, how many confessionals did she get? Let's take a look. Genevieve gets 7, which is quite a bit. I think I want to give her a 4. I feel like she had a really good episode. She was in it quite a bit, in my opinion. So good on Genevieve with that 4 rating. I don't know why I said that like that, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So yeah, Kamilla, pretty low key, pretty on the same page as Tiffany here. Man, I'm wondering if it is an under the radar. I mean, let's take a look at the confessionals. She does get 2 confessionals. She does talk about the journey as well, which is something. I think she might have been like the last person introduced in the episode, honestly. She came very late. But I'm gonna give it a middle of the road. I'm gonna give it a middle of the road too, because there was more substance in the little bit she had. I felt like that's why I want to give it a middle of the road. And I'll get to that in the contender rankings, I guess. It felt a little bit more substantive. Joe, pretty good for Joe. Let's how many confessionals does he get? He gets 4. It's decent. Probably would give him a 3. I think I would give Joe maybe a complex personality 3. It's maybe borderline middle of the road. I don't think there was tone here for Joe. Felt like he was just kind of there, not a whole lot, one way or the other. I don't think that. I don't think there was any tone. I think it is borderline middle of the road because it felt like a lot of what he was talking about was kind of talking about what was going on with the tribe rather than himself. But he did talk about tribal, about his strategy a bit, and he did say in confessional he was like burned by Kyle and Kamilla last time. He doesn't want to be burned by another duo. I think that's pretty good enough to get him a complex personality. Rizo, I'm gonna give Rizo an over the top mixed rating here. Because very negative from Colby, talk about Rizo at first, and then very positive from Colby, talk about Rizo later. I think I'm gonna give it a 3 though. Rizo gets only 2 confessionals, so not a lot, but it was substance to what he got. I think that only getting 2 confessionals, I think, is a great sign of giving him an over the top rating. Definitely mixed tone. This is one of the most mixed tone episodes for contestant I've ever seen. So negative at the beginning and so positive at the end of he's so annoying, we gotta get rid of him, to actually he is really funny and I like him and he's good to have around. And then we see him crying, of course, right off the bat. Rizo crying again the first episode. Classic Riz God. And yeah, I think over the top mixed 3 is the appropriate rating here for me. And Savannah, I think Savannah's kind of similar, in a similar boat to Joe here. It's borderline middle of the road because I do think that we didn't get a lot about her or her strategy. She does get 9 confessionals though, which I believe is the second most of the episode, tied for second most. But we do hear about her talking to Colby and their relationship, which was good. I'm going to give her, I think I'm going to give her complex personality negative. Yeah. 4. I can't believe she got 9 confessionals because it didn't feel like she was in the episode that much. It could be a 3 because it didn't feel like it was that much. But I don't know. I'll give it to heck with it. Complex personality negative 4 for Savannah. Why not? Yeah, I mean, strange episode. I mean, she talks about how Cirie blew the challenge. She kind of wants Cirie out. She just talks about being a winner and kind of revealing that to the tribe. She talks about going on the journey and getting the extra vote. And, you know, she talks about looking up to Colby and whatnot. But I do think that there was some negativity there in terms of people were like not loving that she probably lied about getting the extra vote or the block of vote, I think was what it was. And like her kind of wanting people out was negative. I didn't feel like it was as negative as some people make it out. I almost would go a toneless or mixed here for Savannah. But I think that's enough. And there's not a lot of negative rating this episode. I think it's enough to tip it over the edge maybe to a negative rating. But I feel like I saw some people overinflating maybe how negative it was. Because, I mean, her talking about how she wants to vote at Cirie because she's bad in challenges. Everyone was saying that. The whole tribe, no one disagreed. Even Cirie agreed with that, right? Like, Cirie blew the challenge. They all knew it. Like, she was right. And it wasn't, like, painted badly. It's not like everyone was like, wow, Savannah, how do you say that? I do think I can see what comes off that way. I think Savannah's just a very naturally villainous character on the show, right? But I think that's just how she is. Like, I don't think it was painted that way too much. I'll go with the negative for fun, just to spice it up. But I do think it could be maybe a toneless or a mixed here, maybe for Savannah. But we'll stick with that. Those are the Edgic ratings. Whew. Took a really long time. This is going way longer than we normally do. So we're going to try to get through these contender rankings a little bit quicker, hopefully. But yeah, lot to talk about in this premiere of the first episode of season 50. Let me know your thoughts on all of these Edgic ratings. Do you agree or disagree? I would love to know because I'm definitely open to change on some of these ratings. I love when people give me pitches on why maybe some of these ratings should change. But that is where they are for now. So let's move on to the contender rankings. First contender rankings of the season. Kyle and Jenna obviously voted out. I was feeling pretty good about Kyle's chances before he left. I would have put him pretty high had he not gotten medevac. even though it did feel like that was coming for sure. Jenna, I felt like, negative episode. I felt like Jenna would not have been super high in my contenders, but not low. I mean, she did get, some content, but not a ton. Some of these bottom people, there's a clear bottom 3 for me. I want to put Angelina on last. Maybe that's heinous, but we didn't see Angelina at all. She had a couple confessionals talking about like how glad she was Q brought back the pot, how she liked the tribe. She talked about how she doesn't want to be known as the jacket person this time or whatever. That was all right. But I feel like, again, we didn't see her talking to anyone. I don't know what her alliances are, what her relationships are at all. I didn't see one single bit of her making any sort of relationship or alliance on the beach, which is really not good for her. It puts her in last place because I don't know where it goes from here for Angelina. All right, there's nothing set up. There's no setup for her. So I'm sad to put Angelina in last, though. I mean, maybe not that surprising. But someone's got to be last. The next 2, I'm a little bit tossed up about. I think I'm going to put Charlie second last. The reason for that being that he also doesn't get a ton of play here. We get a bit of a relationship with Coach, but like not a ton. We don't hear Coach talk about it. It's just kind of like a funny scene more than it is like an alliance. I don't know what his alliances are, who he's trying to work with. He's the person that tribe I got the least from, similar to Angelina, of kind of just out there. I don't know who he's trying to work with, what he's trying to do. Just a couple of little funny confessionals. But yeah, I mean, if Charlie wins, there's not a lot of substance here. And Aubry is the third that I feel like is clearly on the bottom here for me. These are definitely my bottom 3. Aubry, I also thought was a bad episode. I put her above Charlie and Angelina. I feel like it was more negative for Aubry, and she's maybe more an impending doom than the other 2 are. But at least there's like a setup of a storyline of her having a rivalry with Genevieve. Don't know if it's going to last very long. Don't really expect Aubry to be the one that comes out on top of that rivalry. But she could. All right, it's not impossible. At least it's a story. Where I feel like Charlie and Angelina have no story set up in the premiere. At least Aubry has a story set up. So put your third from the bottom. I'm a little surprised by this, but I think I'm going to put Tiffany fourth. Watching it a second time, she really is not in the episode a lot. It's not super surprising. Again, she does come in as one of the lesser names here. We do get an establishment of her alliance of that trio of people, but only getting one confessional in the episode is not great. I felt like she got the least, she was the only one that people weren't talking about in her trio. We heard people talk about the other 2. We didn't hear people talk about Tiffany. Yeah, I mean, no real establishment of why she's there in the way that Dee and Kamilla had. Just kind of her talking about, hey, I want to form this alliance. And that was kind of it. So, yeah, I think Tiffany's got to go pretty low here. Next in 18th, I think I'm probably going to put Dee. I definitely feel like things are going downhill for Dee quickly based on this premiere. She's not in a great spot. She does have this alliance with Tiffany and Kamilla, and I do like the way she starts off the episode and where she talks about how excited she is to be back. She's got Survivor running through her blood or something like that. She's Survivor through and through. And then there were a lot of people talking about how good of a player she is, which is good. I do think that if a former winner, especially one as good as Dee, comes back and wins again, she probably gets a lot more content in this episode than she got. But maybe they don't want to make it too obvious. She gets a little bit more play than the 4 people below her, so it brings her up to this spot. I think next, I probably have to put Kamilla next, I think. Also doesn't get a ton here. Only gets 2 confessionals. Not ate a lot. I feel like Kamilla... I did like her establishment when she does show up. I do think, again, last person to show up is not great. I don't know if she was factually, but it felt like it to me that she was the last one to show up. I do think her establishing confessional, though, where she's like, last time I was stuck on the season with this honesty and loyalty alliance, and what did I just say? Did I just say honor T? Honor and loyalty alliance, an integrity alliance. I don't want to do that again. I'm here to play. I'm here to play hard, and I'm ready to get in and do it. I called it. I knew that's what her story was going to be. And that's pretty much what it was. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it did feel like at least an establishment. And I did see someone on, I think, Twitter point this out. And I really like this. And it makes a lot, it kind of harkens back to what we talked about on here a lot in my edit analysis of Survivor 48. And that was Kyle's episode was Kyle's edit in this episode applicable to Kamilla, right? In Survivor 48, we talked about how if you combine Kamilla's pre-merge edit and Kyle's post-merge edit, you get like the perfect winner edit, right? They kind of join together as a duo. They're so interlocked as a duo. Did Kyle getting so much content in this episode, and we get a moment of him talk about how he worked so closely with Kamilla, and she was like this great player and great strategist on Survivor 48. Does that, in his edit, does that applicable to Kamilla? Does she go on this like revenge run for Kyle, kind of? I think it's possible, and I do think that Kamilla is the kind of character that would be like an under the radar type winner based on just her archetype and how Survivor would edit her. Is not surprising to me coming into the season. I just don't think I can put her any higher than this just because she did get such little content. But I'm decent on Kamilla. I think she could move up if she has a good episode too. I think I'm going to put Q next. Again, he gets a lot of content, but I didn't think it was that good. It just felt like not that substantive, and I do think he gets that great confessional at the end where he says, one of us has to win for Kyle, basically. And to me, my instinct was, yes, one of you has to win for Kyle, but not you, Q, because you don't have the edit for it. It's going to be someone else on your tribe. I just feel like, especially for Q, such a massive character, I thought there would be more, like, pizzazz to his premiere edit. And maybe this is good, right? It could be a good thing for him. It could be. I do think he's playing better than I expected him to. I think he's integrating. I think that he's not doing too much like everyone thought he would. So that's really good for Q. But in terms of the edit, I don't really see it. I'm gonna put Cirie, I think, next. Yeah, really bad episode for Cirie. I do think that there's a case to be made that this was like a shielding episode for Cirie, and they purposefully kind of under-edited her in the premieres because she did so badly to try to not make her come off quite as bad, but it still felt pretty bad. I think you could argue she was shielded, which is why she gets up this high, but I do think if Cirie Fields wins season 50, you would think that she would have a better premiere than this, So she's this high because there's potential for shielding, but not enough to move her up any further than this. I think I'm gonna put Chrissy next. Again, I felt pretty negative for Chrissy, but we do get some establishment of her strategy, who she wants to work with. It felt negative to me, but I think it's possible it's not. It could swing back around. In my heart of hearts, it just feels like Chrissy might go out pretty soon based on the edit, but it wasn't as detrimental maybe as the people below her, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these people I've talked about so far, I'm not super high in their chances to win the season based on the edit. So, I think that's kind of the line, maybe. I think anyone above this has a decent enough edit that I could feasibly see them winning. And everyone below this are kind of the people that I think are not standing a good chance right now, especially the bottom three. I could almost entirely rule out as of right now. The 5 or 6 above them, probably not, but maybe. Yeah. As for the remaining 13, these are all pretty decent options. It's kind of tough to decide here. I think I'm going to put Savannah next. I do feel like Savannah is probably going out pretty quick. Listen, I do feel bad about I realize that there are a lot of women low on this list, but I mean, I have to go with what I see, and I just don't see a lot of the edits here for a lot of these women. Savannah gets a lot of content in this episode, but it was kind of negative. What I didn't like about this episode for Savannah is that we didn't really get an actual establishment of like her alliances and relationships on her tribe. She was just kind of generally in the group. She was in the majority, but we didn't get a firm establishment. I really did not like that we did not see Savannah and Rick Devens have a conversation about how they're both former news anchors from Georgia, right? That should have been in the first episode if Savannah wins the season. That is so that surely that scene happened, right? I'd be shocked if it didn't. Maybe it just didn't happen. But surely there had to be something of a relationship. I did like her scene with Colby and establishing that relationship with Colby. It kind of makes me want to bring her up, but I just can't really see putting her above any of these other people. I think she's got to stay here for now. But she could move up if she sticks around long enough and things are going good for her. I think I'm going to put Rizo next, honestly. Rizo, I mean, I do think there was some good establishment of Rizo being like, I'm here to play and I'm excited to be here and whatever. But again, only 2 confessionals. I mean, he gets a big edit in the episode. But I don't know. I don't know if it felt like a winner edit to me as of right now. It felt more like just kind of a character edit, I guess. Like he was just a wacky character that was on the tribe. And we didn't really get a lot of relationship stuff from him outside of Colby. Similar to Savannah, both of them, the 49ers only connecting to Colby for some reason. No one else on their tribes, respectively. But yeah, so let's put the little Dos Leches duo here together, I guess. I think I'm gonna go Joe next at number 11. I think this was a fine episode for Joe. I didn't hate it. I did like that he got the first confessional of them going back to their tribe beach, and he kind of explained the dynamics of the whole tribe and what he thought about every single person on the tribe. That I thought was pretty good. We also did get a little bit of establishment of his strategy and what he wanted to really kind of make up for the faults of his previous game. But similarly to Savannah, not a huge establishment of who he was most connected to on the tribe. It felt like there was a 3, and then Savannah and Joe kind of just the extra numbers that were working with the 3. And so I feel like a pretty similar episode to Savannah for Joe, honestly, in terms of winner potential. I'm looking at the rest of these. I mean, I feel like these are all pretty good. I think I'm going to go Emily next. I can't believe there's so many people left on the list. Yeah, I think that Emily had some good stuff about how she was excited that she had people wanting to work with her, how she didn't have that on her first season. I feel like that was pretty good stuff from her. And we got some strategic content, but she also was the voice of voting out Ozzy, which didn't happen, which I don't love for her. If she wins, this was a very passable episode for her, but it wasn't a lot, and I do worry for her. Actually, I was gonna say I didn't expect to have a match chat, but you know what? I am surprised we did not hear Emily say, "I'm gonna push back on that" to anyone. Rick Devens. Rick Devens goes out and says, "Hey, I voted no idols. I don't want any idols." Emily, I'm gonna push back on that. I think you voted for idols. It would have been perfect. If she didn't do it, she didn't do it. But I can't believe she didn't do it. I really thought she was gonna do that on the match chat. To somebody, just about anything, and just as a bit. And if she did do it and it wasn't included, then that's pretty bad for her. But maybe she just didn't do it. So, yeah, Emily at 10. Man, this is kind of tough for the rest of these people. I have two that are definitely the next two that I'm kind of torn between. I think I'm going to put Jonathan next. The reason why I'm putting Jonathan next is because his tribe was definitely a lot less complex than the other tribes, which brings him down a little bit. It was a very positive episode for Jonathan. A lot of boy, we're glad to have him around. And we did see him talking strategy and forming relationships. And, Coach says at one point, I will never betray you or something like that. So that's good. I do think there was some pretty good stuff here for Jonathan, but I don't want to put him too high. As of right now. I'm going to put Stephenie next. Stephenie's the other one that I'm kind of tossed between. I think that Stephenie, she gets the first confessional of the episode, which was good. And I do think we do get some establishing relationships and alliances for her that I did like for her edit, but she kind of disappears in the back half of the episode a bit. And a lot of her talk was kind of talking about other people, and then it moved to them. It felt like we saw Stephenie talking about Colby, and then Colby took over the narrative and kind of ran with it the rest of the way, and Stephenie kind of got left in the dust in the narrative. So there definitely was some good establishment for Stephenie coming back. She's a legend, all this kind of stuff. But I do wonder, was that just Stephenie is Stephenie LaGrossa and she could go out soon? I could see it. So pretty good stuff here from Stephenie, but that's as far as she's going to go. 7 and 6 are very interesting. I think I'm going to put Mike White next. The reason I put Mike White next at number 7, I think Mike White had a very good episode for a potential winner. I do think you should be looking out for him. A couple of things I worry about with Mike White's edit. One, he's Mike White. He's the celebrity, right? You're going to give him a big edit no matter what. So it's hard to judge. Also, he's kind of on that clearly least complex tribe. I mean, it's tough to say because obviously the other two tribes both lose a player where that tribe did not. So it makes sense that they wouldn't get as much content. I can't, but I got to judge based on something. I only got one episode to go off of here. And they were clearly the least complex. If you look at the confessional chart, a bunch of them getting 1-2 confessionals. So although Mike got a lot, and I think it was a good episode for Mike, I do think he's Mike White. So I don't know what to make of it. I think he might be here for a while, but he could also go out soon. I don't know. So I'm going to put him at 7. These next two are interesting. I'm going to put Ozzy next at 6, just out of the top 5. Ozzy, I feel like it was a good episode for Ozzy, and I do want to look out for him. Even though it was negative, I gave him a negative rating. He got a ton, right? He got so many confessionals. I could see this being a big narrative where he goes on to win. I don't think it's impossible. I do think that Ozzy... here are my problems with Ozzy's super over-the-top edit in this episode that I alluded to earlier, right? Ozzy goes on this journey. He talks about... We see Coach steal the key from him, right? And he's like, wow, coach, you have no honor and integrity. How dare you do that and steal the key? And immediately cut to coach being like, I never made any promises. I kept my mouth shut, and I'm here to play. I'm here to play a new era game and play intently, and I don't care, right? Completely undercuts Ozzy's narrative. Then Ozzy goes on to be like, I'm gonna swindle Q and get the extra vote, and I'm gonna play like mind games with him and get him to give me his extra vote. And I'm like, okay, well now you're playing this underhanded game that you were just blaming coach for. So that felt like that undercut Ozzy again. Then Ozzy's like, wow, this is so great. I got him to give me this vote. Man, I'm the freaking best. And then immediately cut to Q, where Q says, I got the better end of the deal. I think getting the pot is the better thing. Better to be the hero than the zero. AKA, better to be Q than Ozzy right now. He literally says that. And I think that is a very clear representation of them. Ozzy also says, he has a confessional while they're on exile, where he says something like, you're missing out on these early relationships and alliances being formed of being on exile. That's not so great. We see Q, the hero, goes back to his beach and is fine. He's celebrated. He is immediately brought into a majority alliance, and he seems to be in a pretty decent spot. Ozzy goes back to his beach and is in a bad spot. People are sad and upset that Ozzy didn't bring back any tools. He's on the bottom, and he almost gets voted out in the very first episode. That's just reflection of how he was playing. We also get Ozzy being shown to be a little bit cocky in the episode, where he's like, man, this challenge, I've done every piece of this challenge before. I'm going to totally smoke it. And he loses. Now, he does do all the work, but he still loses, right? It shows him just being a little bit overconfident in himself, perhaps. And then also, he's like, man, me and Cirie, we could run this tribe together. Immediately cut to Rick Devens being like, Ozzy is a worry, and he's got to go, right? Or maybe not Rick Devens, but like Emily, people, and a lot of people talk about how they want to get rid of him, and he's not running the tribe at all. Ozzy also says, I'm Oscar now. I'm playing a new era game. I'm not playing the old game I used to play. And then guess what? We hear a confessional from Rick Devens where he says, Ozzy's playing an old school game. He thinks he can just be the provider, and we're not going to vote him out. But that's not true. We want to vote him out, basically. It just felt like Ozzy was constantly undercut in this episode. Now, I do think it's possible that the narrative is that everyone underestimated Ozzy. They didn't see what game he was playing, and he bested them all. Sure. I think it's possible. I don't. I have to go with what I've got. And all this undercutting, all this negativity. Yes, he gets a lot of content. A lot. And it brings him up to be in number 6. But I do think there's a lot of stuff that was just a crazy edit for Ozzy in this episode, honestly. Not what I would have expected at all. And I'm going to put Coach next at number 5. I'm not entirely sure who comes out on top of this Coach versus Ozzy rivalry. At first, I definitely thought it was Coach. As it went along, and like the end of the episode where Coach gets outed by Mike White as lying about the journey, not so good, right? I felt like that was some negative stuff for Coach, and it kind of made me feel like maybe Ozzy will best him in this rivalry. I think it's possible. But I do think that, again, we just look at the reaction that the tribe had to Coach. The reaction to Coach was, we love you, Coach. We'll defend you. Even when that negative stuff happened at the end, they were like, don't worry, Coach. We got your back, right? We didn't really hear anyone say anything negative about Coach. Even Mike White was like, I don't really care that Coach did that. I think it's cool. I'm happy he stole this thing from Ozzy, right? So I think that things are looking a lot better, definitely strategically for Coach. Narratively, I'm not sure. I'll put them right next to each other for that reason. Top 4, I'm going to put Colby at number 4. Crazy. Colby Donaldson, ranked number 4 in my contender rankings. I mean, this is crazy, honestly. But I feel like Colby gets some pretty good content here. We get a lot of establishing relationships. He's kind of the main focus of his tribe. It's between him and Genevieve. He gets a ton of play. He's introduced pretty early, gets the mat chat, gets the flashbacks of him and Stephenie. I thought Stephenie was going to get the better edit than him, but then he really took over the narrative and got way more content for the rest of the episode than Stephenie did. Even though she got more confessionals, I just felt like Colby had so much more impact than Stephenie did on the relationships and whatnot. So, yeah, honestly, I feel really good about where Colby's at right now in the tribe and the edit. These top 3 are tough. I think these top 3 all have pretty good edits. I think I'm going to put Christian 3rd. Christian introduced kind of late in the episode, maybe a little bit later than I would expect for Christian Hubicki, but I do feel like they saved his introductions for his big moments, which I felt like were good for him, right? We waited until we saw him and Rick link up, which was a big moment. And he got the big backstory of him talking about how his kid is going to see this someday and how he's out here to play for, his son that he just, I think it's a son, or his child that he had just had, couple weeks before going out to play, and how, very positive, swelling stuff there. That felt like a potential win, definitely a potential winner contender scene for me for Christian. But I do think he comes a little bit late in the episode. But we see everyone talking about how positive they feel about him, how he's in a good spot, how everyone wants to work with him. A lot of good stuff going on for Christian in this episode. I think Christian is a very viable contender based on this episode. And we're going to reveal who the number 1 is when I do number 2. But I'm going to talk about number 2 first, and then I'll talk about number 1. I'm going to put Genevieve at number 2. Genevieve, I felt like had a pretty good episode as well. I think very similar to Christian in that she was introduced kind of late in the episode. But when she was introduced, she really hit the ground running and we got a lot of establishment of her relationships, of her alliances, who she was vibing with. She really got the bulk of the person that was so sad that Kyle got voted out. I do think that that's just kind of the truth of what it was. But it did feel to me, especially when Q says one of us has to win for Kyle, if that prophecy does come true, it really felt to me like that was about Genevieve. Felt like she's in the best spot in the tribe. She's got the relationships with pretty much everyone there. She's the only person on the whole tribe that we saw talk to the Angelina Aubry conglomerate at all, which was the one scene with Aubry. No one talked to Angelina, but at least Genevieve talked to Aubry. She's the only person we saw talk to that side of the tribe. I think she's got great stuff going on. I see great stuff in the future for Genevieve in this episode. Really good stuff. And so my number 1 contender, believe it or not, is Rick Devens. And there was a point in the episode that I was just like, I think Rick Devens is my top contender. And it surprised me, but it just kind of made sense. I was just looking at this episode, I'm like, Rick is getting so much positivity. People are vibing with him. I really felt like there could have been negativity there where there wasn't. He was narrating stuff. He was introduced early. He gets a mat chat at the very beginning. He gets a flashback scene to his season while he's on the mat chat at the beginning. I was kind of like, do we need a flashback for Rick Devens finding idols? This isn't that necessary, but we got it anyways. We got this huge establishment of his relationship with Christian. Christian talks super positively about Rick Devens and how great he is and how excited he is that he gets to play with Rick Devens. I feel like even more so than Devens talks about Christian. We also are introduced to his relationship with Emily before Christian and Emily, which is huge for Devens. And I think that also went really well for him. We get him talking about Ozzy, talking about Cirie. He just really felt like a core piece of the tribe. I do think in some ways Christian is in a better spot on the tribe and has stuff that is maybe better in some ways. I do think that scene talking about his kid was really impactful. And it did seem like Christian was the one that like kind of made the decision about Jenna going home. So like give credit to Christian for that. But I also just think that Devens, he was introduced much earlier in the episode. He had more going on. It just felt like it felt like Devens was so vital in this episode to me. Like he was just a like crucial part of the episode to an extent that I just felt like I have to put him at number 1 for now. I think these top 3 contenders are definitely my top 3. That Devens-Christian relationship is so important. That is like a massively important relationship to the season. I don't know how far it's going to go, but that got a lot of setup. And I really feel like the winner is likely to come from either that pairing or this gotta get revenge for Kyle storyline that's coming up, which is probably Genevieve or Colby. And then I guess the Coach Ozzy stuff is definitely very important storyline as well. Although it feels more like just a storyline rather than like a winner narrative. So, there we are. The first contender ranking of the season. Normally, I copy the top 5. And then I paste it over in the Edgic. So here we are. Paste it over. It's weird that Coach sneaks in the top 5 when I feel like he's pretty much on par with Ozzy. Honestly, maybe Mike White should be above both of them. But, I don't know. It's just where my gut is. That's the contender rankings. That's the Edgic for the premiere of Survivor 50. I can't believe it's here. It's so awesome. It's so exciting. I've had a blast with the first episode. I have thought about what I was going to talk about in this video so much over the course of the past day. I'm even like losing my voice. I've been talking so much in this video. It's going to be a massive episode. So I hope you all enjoy it. Have enjoyed it because it's over now. But yeah, super fun. Really loved the premiere. Loved talking about it. I will be back next week to talk about episode 2 of Survivor 50 and give all my Edgic ratings and contender rankings based on episode 2. It's been a blast. Click that subscribe button so that you see my videos in your feed and ring the bell so that you will be notified of when the next upload comes on, and leave a like and a comment. All that stuff really helps in the algorithm. I'm a growing channel, I have been for a while, and super excited to be able to cover Survivor 50. So please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe, whatever you can. It helps out a lot, way more than you think. So yeah, I really, really appreciate you watching this video. If you have made it this far, it means a lot to me. It's so exciting for me to get to be here and do this every week. It's so awesome. So that's all I got. It's been super fun. I will see you all next time. I've been North. Stay frosty, y'all.